For university, I went to Wesleyan University in Middletown, Connecticut, and then did half a semester in Stockholm, Sweden at the University of Stockholm.
Stockholm.
Yeah.
Stockholm. Oh, let me turn you on over there. You move mics on me. Okay. Stockholm, Sweden. The music never dies. Tell me about the project.
Well, it's a team up between myself and our director, Edward Hillel. Edward is a seasoned multidisciplinary artist who, among other things, is known for having won the award for Canada's most promising young filmmaker.
Cool.
He has since taken up a career entailing the combination of filmmaking and painting. He's an internationally recognized painter.
Really?
Yeah, he is. The stuff is in art fairs all over the world.
Truly multidisciplinary.
Absolutely. He grew up in Montreal, did a lot of his art career in France, but presently he's based in Harlem, New York, where much of our film takes place. The Music Never Dies tracks the lives of a number of under-recognized jazz musicians based in the New York and New Orleans areas, and we're looking at their careers of 30 and 40 years, but mostly focusing on the present day as they live, having, in some cases, been placed in a position of barely being able to subsist, and in other cases, looking at all of the moments in their lives where they teamed up with the wrong lawyer or the wrong songwriter or the wrong producer and ended up kind of, dare I say, screwed out of royalties due to them. And we're looking at technically piece by piece so that the record can be set straight of who did what in the creative process.
Cool. So who are some of the musicians that are going to be in the piece?
We're looking at, among others, the oldest child even, of Art Blakey, Evelyn Blakey.
Cool.
Yeah, she actually made it to the age of 73, having toured with her father and as well as an artist on her own. She was a very powerful vocalist. And we got to watch her really right at the end. This goes back some years now, and you know she had concerts arranged by the Jazz Foundation of America, and she was very, very vocal and very, very visible. They were able to set up gigs for her that really put her in a nice light in some unconventional venues. Another performer we were able to spend quite a bit of time with is Jimmy Norman. You may have heard, he's known among other things as the baritone singer of the Coasters in the 70s. They changed lineups quite many times, but in any case he was among their baritones, and he produced a lot for Bob Marley. He was in Jamaica with Bob Marley for the One Love album, the album that more or less gave birth to modern day reggae. And when Bob Marley met Jimmy Norman, he wanted to sound R&B. He hadn't picked out his sound yet.
Wow.
And they slowly tweaked and made the trip to Jamaica, and whatever's in the Jamaican air, I suppose,
whatever.
eventually gave way to what we know as his sound today.
That's amazing. I know he had some stories to tell.
Absolutely.
What an adventure.
Yeah, you can read about him in a handful of the biographies written on him, but among the places you will not read about him is the biography of Mick Jagger. He having written a song fans of the Rolling Stones would know as Time Is On My Side. He wrote the lion's share of the lyrics for that one. And he was teamed or was hired by a fellow by the name of Jerry McAvoy, a longtime Stones producer and songwriter, who co-wrote, he wrote the actual words, Time Is On My Side. Jimmy Norman wrote the rest of the lyrics, and subsequently slowly found his name first, printed alongside this fellow's name on the record, and then another release goes by, it's kind of an abbreviated version, and his name's kind of fallen off, and then you see roughly release number 4, it's not there, it's gone, and royalties had not been paid out by that point, and they were left scratching their heads. His PR guy and him were, watching the record as the Rolling Stones started touring with it, because it was literally the Rolling Stones' first top 10 U.S. hit. It was the first moment America said, hey, those guys have a decent sound, maybe they should tour here. And this is the song that launched them in this country. And slowly it became clear, his phone calls aren't being returned, BMI doesn't know who he is, ASCAP doesn't know who he is, he's making all the calls. And to this day, not even the estate has seen a dime past the initial cash outlay of about $150 that Jerry McAvoy gave Jimmy Norman to write the song in 1964.
So I guess part of the message in your film is one for young artists as well. Get your stuff together, get it in writing. Your creative product, your intellectual property is all you have. Talent is just that. Everyone doesn't have it.
It's a component, but you're absolutely right. It is not everything. And it's very interesting to watch this alongside, because we've, in our lifetimes, have had the chance to see the evolution from the record companies run everything and will happily pay $17 for one song we like on a CD, evolving into everyone's got a fast enough computer to download everything we want, and everyone's thinking about, oh, well, it's a digital file. Why would I pay to share a file? This is mine now. And then we evolved into, okay, we're all happy to pay $1 a song. That seems to suit everyone, and that evolution into, okay, now the streaming services don't pay the artists too terribly well. And we're rewinding like 4 or 5 steps in that evolution to the moment where someone like Jimmy Norman records a song, writes a song, hands it off, and he just assumes, well, someone's going to do right by me. Why wouldn't they? After all, it is my song.
It's my song.
And we're now... what I'm looking forward to as a producer of this film is the moment where I get to say to the people in the Stones camp, we would love to license the song that our guy wrote on your behalf that is now being used to bring attention to the fact that the song was taken from this guy who hasn't received a dime past the initial cash outlay in the early 60s. I have a feeling that's going to be a long series of phone calls.
Yeah, I'm sure that full circle is a long time coming, I'm sure.
Hey!
That is my read on it.
If ever. My goodness.
Hey! We got 35, 45 attorneys. We'll just sit in court.
That's kind of how it feels. I followed Mick Jagger on Twitter just to see if I might get a whisper of how the man thinks, how the mind works, how the machine runs. He doesn't tweet much. I'm not too terribly shocked. I read his 600-page biography and discovered Jimmy Norman's name is not to be found. I don't think that's an accident, but you know the access he's had to the United States and what this country's done for him. Among what this country's done for him is launching a touring career that he could tour literally until the age of 105 if he felt like it. He would be continually supported. He could sell out the Garden 12 nights in a row if he felt like it.
Whether he could sing or not.
Exactly. Just to stand there.
Just stand there.
Just as long as the shirt was short enough to show his belly, I think that would get the audience to pay enough attention.
They'll be there. That's for sure.
Some things don't change.
So, the film is just about done. It was unique. It's one of these new ways of funding things, sort of like...
So you did crowdfunding with it?
Crowdfunding?
We're actually crowdfunding right now. We are, as we speak, we're in our final day on Indiegogo, and we're up to 25 backers, which is a nice little bonus to have. We actually have a couple of revenue streams for the project, so Indiegogo is not our sole, but Indiegogo is absolutely going to give our next big push in terms of getting the next step is the musicians that will play in that are now in New Orleans, New York and New Orleans. We're going to corral them for a tour, and that tour will take place at the end of September, early October, and that will give them some very nice exposure to a brand new audience, at least for them. This is people who have heard their music, who grew up with all the songs that would have, all the movies and commercials that would have licensed Times on My Side and endless hours of jazz that they've recorded, and they will never have seen these audiences that have grown up 30, 40 years listening to their product. So we'll have markets that will allow them to then, long after this film is completed, to come back. I don't suppose any of these New Orleans fellows have ever played jazz in Estonia. That's my read on it. I haven't checked all of their discographies or all of their touring history, but I have a feeling Tartu, Estonia has not yet reached their map.
Yeah, it's probably not one of the hits on their parade.
Beautiful town, don't get me wrong, and an undiscovered jazz capital, in my opinion. Like I've done country by country, city by city, to see all the venues that are open enough to have their venue in a documentary. And these people really love the music. They're really, I am astounded by how much a 17-year-old Latvian knows about jazz that I don't.
I know.
And
It's humbling, I would imagine.
a little bit embarrassing at times, but you go, okay, well, I guess this is the world that Google has created.
Yeah.
Everything is a couple of, search terms and a couple of clicks away. And if you find an obsession at the age of 14, you jump on it, you follow it, whereas we had the opportunity to go down to the Music Plus, and if they did not have, they didn't have the latest New Edition record, if they didn't have the latest Guns N' Roses, whatever it would be, we would drive to the next shop to see if they had it. And if they didn't have it, we'd go home going, okay, I guess I'm going to give, Roni, my single on cassette, another spin before I can find the whole album, before I can find what Bobby Brown's up to now.
Yeah, that is true.
But presently, you can get their whole catalog in no time flat. And it's a beautiful thing that way. And as it stands, we're looking forward to being able to show these jazz and blues men in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s who they've touched, how much of the world has reached out to them, and how much of the world didn't know they existed apart from on a sonic level.